so long thinking I had to fight this by myself. But I can stand here today because y'all stood with me. Because you stood with me.
We got you. Always.
That's right, man. I ain't alone anymore.
No, you're not. Good. Now stretch. Good.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of The Hearts of Men. We're your host for this evening's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer, about a mindset coach, and I am joined right now by my brother, Mr. Garfield Martin, the Uncle Junior, also known as a consistency coach. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Enjoying the heat because I don't have to be in it. So
He enjoying. He throwing shade. He throwing shade. No, I get it.
no shade, man. But bro,
yeah.
I mean, you said you was out there in it this week, man, and I was sitting on my my comfy cool couch, this afternoon, and I was like, man, I stepped outside for a little bit, and I was out there, and I was like, man, I do not miss them days of being out there in that heat. You know what I'm saying? We did it. We did the Iraq thing. I remember the days. I don't miss it.
It wasn't that bad. It was only a couple of days. It could have been worse. I don't spend the night out there no more, so stuff like that. For just so that everybody know, we will be joined here pretty soon by our brother Twami Gaddy. He was running a little behind, but he will be here. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. That said, as always, it is good to be here on Friday evening, being able to share in conversations with my brothers. And not just that, to be able to share in conversation with the live chat and social media. So again, we want to make sure that we appreciate you. Make sure that you know that you are appreciated. You could be doing anything else, but you chose to come and hang out with us, and we don't take that lightly. So that being said, here we like to acknowledge you by name. So if you have not gotten the comment section, get in the comment section, let us know that you're there so that we can acknowledge your presence. So that being said, the rebirth of Nick D, good to see you and welcome. Crystal Everett, good to see you and welcome. Quiet Storm 78, good to see you. Welcome. Yes, it's Maya. Good to see you. Welcome. His Divine Appointment, good to see you and welcome. And want to make sure that, again, regardless of what platform you're on, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram, again, you are welcomed to this channel every Friday evening on The Hearts of Men. We got any other admin notes that you can think of?
Not that I know of, other than drink water.
Gotcha.
For the folks out there, bro. I'm just saying, some people in some areas, man. And I get it. Yeah, drink some water.
Yeah, man, it's warming up quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get started then.
Let's do it.
You already know what to do. That's not your problem. So why aren't you doing it? Most men can quote the principles. They've read the books, sat through the sermons, and nodded along to every podcast, including this one. But Monday morning comes and nothing changes. The marriage still feels distant. The leadership at home is still shaking. The discipline is still inconsistent. And deep down, there is still this quiet frustration. I know better. So why don't I live better? James 1:22 says, be doers of the word and not just hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Information without application is just entertainment. And God didn't design you to be entertained. He designed you to be transformed. Last week, we laid the foundation, the rules, the principles, the mindset shifts. Today, we'll close the loop. We're going to give you a clear, practical process to take everything we discussed last week and this week and actually apply it. So the lessons don't just live in your head, but start showing up in your life, your family, and your legacy. Welcome to the Hearts of Men. This is the power of application, turning rules into results. So let's get to work. So just to kind of catch everybody up, if you have not watched last week's conversation, by all means, go back because I think we kind of uncovered a lot of great points last week. But for the sake of conversation, what we're going to do is we're going to do a real quick rehash just to kind of bring everybody up to speed because I really want people to kind of grasp what we're talking about here. So, the first talking point we talked about last week was the consciousness crisis. Why most men, the consciousness crisis, why most men are unconsciously stuck. Um, there we go. Why most men are unconsciously stuck. And that being said, this is important because most men operate at a victim consciousness level, characterized by blame, shame, guilt, and apathy. They're unconsciously breaking all three of the rules that we shared with you guys last week, and we're going to go over them again this week. Um, that being said, they haven't awakened to their purpose. Now, I don't want to just limit this piece to just men because trust me, part of woman includes the word man. So it's not just men 100%. It is anybody who has not recognized a few things that we talked about. And the number one thing that we talk about, which was rule number one, is all about take full ownership of your life, right? Stop being a victim, start being a creator. So I know somebody out there is like, well, what does it mean to be a victim? And, whatever the case may be. Anytime the reason you give for anything happening in your life goes outside of you, that is an example of being a victim. I don't care what it is. There is no example that anybody can give me that goes outside of that. If the reason is external to you, then that's you being a victim. So you have to take full responsibility of your life. And then rule number two is master your inner world before you conquer the outer world. Now, to somebody who's listening, they're trying to figure out, okay, so what does that really mean? That means it's like saying it this way. It's like, and I had a conversation earlier with the voice of reason. I'm glad I did. It's like buying a house, and it could be the best house in the neighborhood, the best house on the block. It can have all the bells and whistles. It can be open floor concept. It can have, moving this and twirling that and spinning this and vaulted ceilings and chandelier and all of that other great stuff. But at the end of the day, if and when the foundation is messed up, then I'm not buying that house. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it, how much over market value for that perceived neighborhood I believe it is. If the foundation is messed up, I'm not buying that house. Well, the same thing applies to people. I don't care how smart you think you are. You can have more degrees than a thermometer. But if the foundation is messed up, I promise you that little bit of smarts you think you got will always be shared from the wrong lens because the foundation is messed up. And I say that because I believe 100% that every brand new revelation that you receive, you got to go back and consider everything else prior to. So if you just take that bit of information at face value at this stage in your life without going back and reassessing some things, you're kind of missing the mark. And then when you get to sharing it, you're going to share it through the wrong lens. And then you're going to be trying to figure out, well, why won't they believe or accept what it is I'm saying? Because when you're saying it, people hear it and it sounds like, some foreign language. And that's ultimately it. So let me pause right there before I move forward. Unc, I said a lot just now. Let me get your feedback or comments. And also, people, you guys in the chat, tell me what you guys think. Yeah, especially if you disagree. Make sure you tell me why, though.
I'm liking the summary. I'm liking the summary up to this point. I'm liking everything that you covered. Saw, heard a lot about, at least in my opinion, about accountability and the importance of accountability and being able to accept certain things that you can accept and change the things that you can change. And not saying that you don't have a hand in the outside world outside of you. But again, like you said, taking care of the foundation, taking care of the internal person, what I'm saying, before, well, I don't necessarily want to say before, but I think before you can really conquer the outside world, you do have to take care of the inner side. I think that you can be working on the inner side and still extend the hand out and still offer some support and something. But when it comes to conquering and really making a huge impact, I think you definitely 100%, 1,000,000% have to have that inner person under control.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's like, and I've talked about this before. If I don't fix what's inside, then I'm going to use everything outside to appease what I'm missing in my life at that stage. And so whatever void, whatever emptiness, whatever insecurities, or whatever that looks like, anything that I touch on the outside is only there to do my will to make me feel better about who I think I am or who I think I'm not, as it pertains to the life that I'm living. So again, make sure that you guys get in the comment section. Make sure that you give us your thoughts. Make sure that you share your perspective as we continue to go on, because again, you are a vital part of the show. That takes us through. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think, even, when we're continuing and talking about mastering the inner world, I think, one of the big hiccups that, is very simple is that sometimes we just don't know certain things. We don't know how to master the inner world because just whether it be because we didn't get the information, we didn't hear the information, we didn't apply the information for whatever reason, we're ignorant, we heard it at a time to where we wasn't able to receive it. All of these different things that sometimes is out of our control. It is what it is, but it's a reason, but still at the same time, it's still our responsibility at the same time. So I'm not taken away from, I don't want to harp on the things that's out of our control. I just want to say that that is part of the problem, not part of the problem, but part of all of this. And at the same time, that even though that's a reason and those are things that's out of our control, it's still our responsibility to get our inner world and to under control and still to master it.
So, yeah, I don't disagree. Let me start
Hmm.
there. But I wonder how long, in your opinion, how
Hmm.
long could I use that as an excuse? I didn't know. Somebody didn't teach me. I don't have the tools. My family wasn't like. How long can I use that as an excuse?
Man, I don't know. I think it shouldn't be too long into adulthood, honestly. But at the same time, I still see a lot of people who still struggle with it at our age. So I don't really know when that time should be. In my opinion, I think it should be pretty early on in life. But then that kind of goes back to just not receiving certain information. I remember a while ago there were some conversations, the other show that I had, and I don't think he'll mind me bringing it up, but talk about Chris, and Chris had talked about, he was raised by a single mother, and there were certain things that he just lacked even as a man in his 40s now because he just didn't have certain things. It wasn't an excuse, but because he didn't get certain things, he didn't have certain things as an adult. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't really know how long it really should take someone. I don't know. I don't know. Again, in my minute mind in this vast world of ours, this universe, I'm thinking this should be pretty early on in life.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think that question by itself is just rhetorical in nature, right?
Hmm.
It's a question that's very difficult for one person to answer for
Yeah.
the swath. But by that same token, I'm agreeing with you. It should not take me a great deal of time to realize, especially if I am getting outside information that is literally telling me some things and telling me the things that I really need to hear in the midst of this life that I'm living in. But I'm kind of rejecting that because I'm trying to hold on to my own little piece of the pie and construct the life the way that I want it to be constructed. Yeah, like no, that doesn't work. So,
Don't work.
that's yeah, so that's kinda like my thoughts, and I'm agreeing with you. Ideally, you would learn that in your 20s, early 20s,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. But in most cases, that didn't happen. I know it didn't happen that way for me, right?
Mhm.
It took me a little while, and once I got it, I was like, wow, I get it now. I've been living life all the way up to this point through the lens of being a victim. It's always the man trying to hold me down. It's always because of this. This didn't happen because XYZ, whatever the case may be. Um, and then one day, and I can't tell you exactly what day that was. One day, it's like I drew a line in the sand. It's like no more excuses. Either either I obtain it, and if I obtain it, it's because of the work that has happened in me and through me. Or if I didn't obtain it, hey, I didn't work hard enough, and what I need to learn from it. Um, so it was just me owning it. Yes, go ahead.
It's almost like we grow up hearing the answers. It's almost like we grow up hearing the answers to the test. Like it's his fault, it's the man's fault, it's because I can't do this. It's like, okay, well, it's like these are all the answers. These are all the reasons why I can't. Right? So if we know all of the reasons, seems like we have the answer. So it seems like the pathway through the test should be, in theory, a little bit easier.
Mm,
But I don't
If
know.
But if the reasons don't make you take responsibility for your life, then, what good are those reasons? Like, it's
Yeah.
to me, I think that kind of like exacerbate a problem that already exists,
Yeah.
right? Especially if the senior person that's still in my life, when I go back to that person
Mhm.
is still making excuses for the reason why something didn't happen for me, right? Well, your
Yeah.
dad wasn't here, so I don't have any. You need to talk to your dad about that because of XYZ. Well, I mean, I'm talking to you right now,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not asking you about him, but you're pointing me to him. So anyway,
Mhm.
I think a lot of that exists.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned Chris earlier. To that young man's credit, I will say that I've seen, not only just based upon the conversations he's had with me from back then all the way up to this point, he has literally drew the line in the sand and like really taken ownership of his life. So if Chris, if you listening, bro, shout out to you
Yeah.
and keep doing the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Um, that said, chat, comments. I got a question. What are some of the excuses that you were given in your life? What are some of the reasons that may have front loaded potential failures, right? Or shortcomings. I say it that way. I won't call them failures. What are some of the excuses that you were gifted that may have front loaded potential failures? And I would add too, I want you to think about it. And is it possible because you were already pre programmed with the excuse for something failing because of the potentiality of looking at somebody else doing a particular thing that they have not even done yet? Could that be possible? That that was part of the reason why the relationship didn't work, or or struggled or whatever. Like, case in point, if I am told that, and talking about me as a man, all women are self-centered. If I'm told that, could that not put a lens on my face to where now I'm looking at women and I'm looking for the self-centeredness in them? So I'm just kind of curious at your comments in the chat section. Um,
Can I answer that?
yeah, go ahead, man.
I wanna answer it because my answer is probably coming way out of left field. And I'm thinking about all of those things that I was taught, a lot of the stuff that we hear on social media now, and I started learning that stuff, this person gonna hold you down or you're not gonna be able to do it because I really started getting that information in high school. I didn't get that stuff early on. What I got was you're gonna be a preacher or you're called to preach. So that's what I got, right?
Yeah.
So you talking about that mask or that whatever, growing up, I always had that over me. Like these people were in church, and even as an adult, I had, people, that were kind of high up and, been following Christ for a long time. And, on the outside looking in, you think they have everything together and stuff like this. And these people like, oh yeah, I know you're called to preach, man of God. All these things, I always was told these things. So I didn't necessarily get all of the negative stuff. I got that, and that created a certain level of like, bro, I ain't nobody trying to get up in the front of nobody and be hooping and hollering and yeah. I'm not trying to do all of that stuff because that's how I grew up, and I didn't want to be somebody in the front of the congregation or in front of people. So that wasn't my nature. That's never been what I wanted. I never wanted to be up like that. So I did a lot of running from church and God and different things like that because I'm just like, well, if his will, then it's going to happen anyway. And I didn't want that to happen. So I'm just like, nah, bro, I ain't trying to have you do that to me. So I spent a lot of my life running only to grow up and understand that that was not saying that they were wrong, but it wasn't that wasn't my calling. You know what I'm saying? That's what they may have thought at the time is what I was supposed to do. And maybe even through this podcast, in some sense, I may am delivering some sort of something to be able to help and support somebody. So I
Sure.
still may be fulfilling that anyway, but it just may look maybe packaged differently. But again, long story said, all of that to say that's kind of how I answered it is that that's what was on me. And it's spent a lot of my life running from certain things like that.
So I wonder, as I'm waiting on some of the people in the comment section to kind of, you know, put some of the comments that they were gifted in their younger years, which may have kind of put a lens of potential failure over their eyes. Um, do you believe that based upon that projection, that prophecy, if you will, of who you were supposed to be, do you believe that kind of made you fearful of doing a thing? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, it made me fearful. It made me like not want to go to church because, I understood, if nothing else, that God's will is going to be done regardless. But at the same time, I thought that if I went to church, it was more likely that it was going to happen. So I stayed away from church, stayed away from people in the church, just didn't want to have anything to do with it because I was believing what man had told me was going to be the prophecy for my life instead of going out and seeking it for myself.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take. And I'm glad you were brave enough to share that. I've also believed the other side happens as well. That, little Johnny wants so much to please his mama that little Johnny thrusts himself into it. And,
Mm.
unfortunately, it becomes a job and not necessarily a calling because he is thinking he is fulfilling the prophecy of mom or dad. And I think that's
Mhm.
a very dangerous game, a very dangerous game to play and a very slippery slope to be in. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in our upcoming webinar. So if you guys have not got your ticket to the webinar yet, make sure that you scan that QR code that's about to pop up on the screen and get your ticket to this upcoming webinar on July 11th. You are not called to grow your ministry. And I'm going to have a special gift for those who actually come to that webinar because I think it's going to be good. So have an expectation during that webinar, not only to receive what is going to be taught, which I've already started working on and I'm excited about it, but you're going to receive something else as well. Because, one of the things I try to do is over deliver. And over delivering to me is a way of showing people that they're valued. Um, for me, it was twofold. I remember there was a time that I was in high school. I think it was like a freshman in high school, and I had this girlfriend, and she was older than me. I think she was a freshman in college, and my mom didn't like it. She didn't like it at all. In fact, I got put on punishment because I wouldn't break up with her. She's like,
Mm.
"What does that old woman want with you?" I mean,
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's me. Of all people, it's me, right? And, you try to play it off like it didn't hurt your feelings, you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
it kinda hurt your feelings. And so, unbeknownst at that time, I believe to her, stuff like that has a tendency to stick with you, right? And so you kinda almost like play small in that regard. Now that was compounded with other stuff, right? That was said to me during that time as well, because she was still hurting based upon what went on between her and my dad. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's like those little things that are injected into you as a child has a way of following you into your adult years and kind of manifesting themselves in your adult life. So I may not have said the words, but it's almost like, and I'm just saying this for the sake of conversation, it's almost like you see somebody and be like, I want to go talk to her. But then it's like, what you want with me? You know what I'm saying? And so
Mm.
it's kind of like how it works. So you get pre-programmed with information that kind of lingers in your subconscious and rear its head at a later point in time. And then that becomes the lens that you see the world and other people through. And that's a
Mhm.
very dangerous game. So for those of you who still got kids out there, don't do that to them, right? Speak
No.
positivity and life into them. Don't look, okay. Let me touch that before we move on and get this conversation started. Do not sell them fantasy, right? Tell them the truth, right? If little Johnny 5'6" and his daddy 5'7" and his mama 5'4", Johnny ain't going to the NBA. Let's be real. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it real. So some things we just got to be honest with our kids with, and just say, hey, you need to get in them books because chances of you going to be in the next Shaquille O'Neal just ain't gonna happen. Um, but be pot. Spud was what 5'8". Little Johnny wasn't gonna make it to 5'8" because his mama 5'4" and his daddy 5'7",
Mhm.
so he ain't gonna make 5'8". But,
Yeah.
and that was a different era, right?
Yeah.
Those who played center back then would probably play power forward, maybe even two guard now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so let's kinda bring up I'm sorry, you about to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, him and Muggsy Bogues, there was Muggsy, I think was 5'3", but those are outliers. There's always outliers. But you know what I mean, to sell your kid that dream that they could be that next one is throwing a lot of eggs in that one basket, you know what I'm saying, for 99.999% of them to break, especially knowing that ain't but a couple of 100 slots even available in the NBA every year,
Yeah,
'cause you got
yeah,
32 teams and they got what 15-man rosters. You do the math, and
right,
some of them been there and ain't going nowhere. So,
yeah,
and I don't know, you mentioned don't do that, and I get that. I don't know where the line is, when it comes to parents parenting, when it comes to like the way I was more like you. Like I ain't selling them no pipe dreams. Like, bro, you
mhm,
ain't going to the NFL. Like, bro, you starting, but bro, y'all not playing nobody. You not lined up against no D1 athletes. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You playing here. You know what I mean? You 5'6". You know what I'm saying, bro? You probably not going to the NFL. And
right,
then, they're the parents are like, we locking in 100%. It ain't no plan B out here. We going 100%, and I don't knock those parents either. But I do on the outside know that there are, I believe, more of a more of the lesser when it comes to parents having that one or bust mindset, no plan
right,
B. I don't think that happens to most. So for me, I don't want to put a lot of stock in it, but then at the same time, to the parents who said there is no plan B and that child is in the NBA or the NFL right now, it's still like, yeah, but your son grew to 6'8" and 320 pounds solid with abs. So you know
yeah,
what I'm
so
saying?
yeah, so let me say it like this, and this is what I mean when I say that. You don't
Oh, no,
become a
and this
dream.
is not to contradict anything that you're saying. This was
Right.
like in addition, yeah.
Right. You don't become a dream killer. If little Johnny want to go to the NBA, then you support him going to the NBA. You just don't become blind to reality, and you continue to push him to, make sure that he's in school doing the things that he needs to do as well. But if you want to, pursue his basketball dream, let him pursue his basketball dream until he either realized that basketball was just a long shot, or he makes it. And again, we're talking
Mhm.
1% of the 1% of the 1%. That's the part people got to realize, and they don't necessarily know those statistical numbers simply because they're not necessarily like they're caught in the possibilities of the what if with the desire to live vicariously through their child successes. 1% of the 1% of the 1%. 1% of kids in high school will go to college on a full ride athletic scholarship. 1% of those will actually go from college into the professions. And then
Mhm.
1% will actually become good, right?
Yep.
And make a name. So that's how it is. It's 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And so those are long odds when you really have clear-cut instructions on parenting. So at the end of the day, what I don't do is argue with people with their fantastical worldviews of how to parent. Have at it. But I'm just gonna tell you what the Bible says and go straight from there, and then do your thing. I'm
Your
gonna do what
thing.
God say, right? Um, if you have not yet hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have not shared this episode yet, by all means, share this episode. And again, like Nick D said, if you have not scanned that QR code and made your saved your seat for the webinar for July the 11th, make sure that you do so because I think it's going to be a good one, and I think you're going to appreciate being in the room. Let's bring up Atlas Keys to Key comment because she shared hers already, her and his divine appointment, and Nick D. Atlas Keys the Key Realtor said, I was advised that all men will cheat by my elders, family members, when I was about to get married. Church going women, that indeed gave me a lens. Mm.
Golly.
I'm just saying, I can't make this stuff up.
And
Um,
every dude that ever came in contact with her has to try to not be this. You know what I mean? Not necessarily try not to be that, but it's like in her mind, it's like, I gotta make sure that this dude is not this. That's hard to live up to. It's hard to give lip, man.
I don't think it's that extreme.
Okay.
It's, I say it like this. I think when you get that lens, it's not that it's your intention to look at that person through that lens, but it's
Mhm.
just like if something smells fishy, you automatically make that assumption,
There
or you
you go.
tend to look for those things that supports that underlying assumption. Um, I don't think, and I'm not speaking for her, I'm just speaking as how I believe it works. You're not looking at that person like, yeah, that person's a cheater, that person's a cheater, that person looks like a cheater. I don't think that's how it works. I just
Yeah.
think that, they get into relationships and then if something looks different outside of what they would do themselves, then they automatically start having those thoughts. So, well, maybe, could they possibly be? I wonder if they are. Like all of those different thoughts starts circling their mind like little bees flying around a hornet nest or hornets flying around a hornet nest when you disturb it. So this is how I think it works. His divine appointment said, I was told a man would be a man. I didn't understand what that meant. Very vague statement. I filled in the blanks. I'm like the fact that she said that last statement because the
Mm.
thing that you do not understand, you will fill in the blanks. So thank you for sharing that. The rebirth of Nick D said, I was taught that you get a pass for doing what could be considered the wrong thing with the right outcome as long as I had good intentions. Man, that is such a good statement. Um, mathematical equations will always prevail. I say that again. Mathematical equations will always prevail. You got to have the right intentions and the right behavior to get the right outcome. If I have the right intentions and the bad behavior, it is a bad outcome. I don't care what it looks like.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, what I am teaching you, unbeknownst to you, is that it does not matter what the behavior looks like as long as the intent was good.
Mhm.
Can't make that up. So I'm glad you said that. Um, I tell you what, let's get back to rule number 3 because we shared it with you guys last week, but we didn't talk it in detail. Rule number 3 is live by conviction, not by comfort. Principles over feelings every single time. Now, I get it. Somebody just cringed in their boots when they heard me say every single time. Part of what I'm talking about right there. The fact that you cringed by me saying that is exactly what I'm talking about. So I want to ask this question, Garfield. I want you to
Mm.
kind of think about it real quick. What is one conviction the collective we claim to believe, but consistently violate it when it becomes uncomfortable?
Then we gotta let me see. We claim to forgive everybody. I think that's one sometimes. We always talk about, oh yeah, somebody do me wrong, I forgive them, like the Bible say, I'm gonna turn the other cheek, all of this stuff. And then in the same breath, baby, like, but I'm gonna be me. God know my heart, or something like that, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to turn the other cheek when you are headed towards the water fountain and somebody get in front of you or somebody cut you off when you already late to work and running behind because one of your rollers got stuck in your hair and wouldn't come out, and the dog took 30 minutes to go to the bathroom. Then he wouldn't eat, and then he went to the bathroom on the floor, and now somebody cut you off and you want to let them have it. And you like, I'm just going to be here and be calm and be cool and turn the other cheek and turn up my gospel music. And you like, that's what I'm supposed to do. But man, right now, I ain't had my coffee yet. I ain't had my cigarette or whatever it is, your morning routine, your Coke, whatever it is to get you started so you can be in peace and can function in the day. If you ain't had that, you ain't there. So I think some of that is one of the things that we claim is to like forgive people and really maybe even be kind to people. I don't know, man. I think I started with one thing and then ended up somewhere else.
But you just can't drop that last piece out there and just leave it there. What do you mean when you say be kind?
Like,
Okay, I'll give you a scenario because I think I know where you're at. Are you
mhm.
saying you do a kind act for me and I don't appreciate it, and then you get mad because I don't necessarily appreciate the kind act?
Yeah, don't do that. That ain't the right thing to do. Whether or not you appreciate it or not, you be kind. Cause once you give it to somebody, that's it. Once once you have giving whatever it is, that compliment, that rose, that whatever, once you have given it, it's done, it's over. That's it on your part. You have done. Cut off right there. That's where it should cut off. Should be nothing else after that. Whether or not they say thank you, whether or not they appreciate it, whether or not they take it and throw it in the garbage, it don't matter. Just be kind. Give it in love, be kind, and that's it. Walk away, let it go. Don't
Yeah,
expect nothing else after that.
yeah, I'm with that. Um,
It ain't easy all the time.
yeah, I mean, I done held the door open for some people who ain't say thank you, and I want to go in there and grab them by their lace front and pull them back out.
Mhm.
Um,
Then culture too, because if you did that in Korea, they'd be like, "Why you holding the door for me?"
yeah,
But different
yeah.
culture. Yeah.
Um,
But
so
I've been there before. I'm like, man, I hold the door for you. You ain't even like, bro, I hold the door for you and your wife to walk out. I left my wife and I hold the door for you and your wife. And you can't even say thank you, brother, bro, my guy. Yeah, I'm still guilty of that too. I'm guilty of that sometimes too.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm agreeing with you there. Um, his divine appointment, you took mine, so I can't say that. So I gotta find another one. But in the meantime, bring up her comment, please. Because I agree. When someone trespass or violate the agreement, we're ready to divorce or separate. Um, so in other words, when you get married, it's viewed through the wrong lens. Therefore, because it's viewed through the wrong lens, like go back to what I said previously. If the foundation is faulty, everything you do from that point on is going to be an error because it's viewed through the faulty foundation. So if I didn't get the proper teaching in the beginning, when I go forth and do something like being married, now I'm doing it wrong. So when that person does something to upset me, does something that I think is a showstopper, whatever the case may be, now we're ready to or either separate or ready to divorce because of that, and that is in error. Um, so I like the fact that she actually said that. Bring up Nick D's as well, because I do like that one. Being of service to others. We may only want to do it if it feels good, or we're intentionally selective about who we are of service to based upon personal bias. The second part was the one I really wanted to capture, right? Because we are selectively serving people. And in most cases, it's probably because we think they can give us something in return. A lot of times we're not serving people simply because it is going back to your word. It is the kindness in me. It's me being an ambassador of Christ, whatever that looks like. It's because I think I can get something in return from that person. So it's like become more of a bartering thing as opposed to a service thing. So I'm glad she said that. Um, I guess that means I got to go a different route. And
Oh,
so, one conviction, and I guess it's going to be very similar to something you heard previously, the conviction of commitment, right? And I'm not just talking specifically in a marriage. It is a marriage, a friendship, a job, or whatever that looks like. Sometimes we're not necessarily taught the skill of stick wittedness. And so, no, you're good. Yeah, we're not necessarily taught the skill of stick wittedness. So as long as I'm feeling good while doing this thing, I would do this thing as long as it's serving me. Well, if I'm doing this thing because it's serving me, I am doing it for the wrong reason. So going back to what I think it was Nick D who mentioned the serving others, we serve others not because it feels good. We serve others because it's right. We serve others because that's what we're called to do. And so if how I feel becomes the sticking point behind it, now it's not a commitment. I'm not committed to that thing or the individuals in that thing. I'm committed to myself and I'm using them to make me feel good while doing it. It is a very difficult thing to digest because everything in the world is telling you just the opposite. I get it. I understand. And again, it's hard hearing that, especially if my foundation is faulty. Because when the world says to love yourself, well, yeah, that falls in line with what I'm thinking. But even that's wrong. It's not that it's not that you got to love yourself first to love someone else. I should become the reflection of love for the sake of others. So that's ultimately how that works. So I'm loving all of this so far. What's up, bro? Good to see you.
It's good to see y'all, brothers. I apologize for the tardiness.
yep, sir.
I got you. I got you. I got you. So, so I don't mean to throw you into the fire as soon as you get here, but we're gonna throw you in the fire as soon as you get here. We just answered the question: what is one conviction we claim to believe, but consistently violate when it becomes uncomfortable? Now, let me tell you the ones that were already said. Marriage was already said. Commitment, other than marriage, like committing to other stuff. And Garfield said kindness. He said two. You said kindness, and what was the second one?
Yeah, the second one was kindness. The first one was um oh, I forgot now. Oh, it'll come back to me. It was on tip of my tongue.
Man, yeah, that is a fire. That's a fire. We claim to believe, and I like that you said we
Oh,
claim
to
to.
be forgiving, to forgive people.
Mm.
Man, I was about to work my way to forgiveness. I was taking a smooth walk to it too. um, whew. Well, I got two. I'm gonna start. The first one is probably gonna be we claim to believe in peace, but I feel like as a people we operate a lot in chaos. Um, and I'm not talking about specifically the peace that the Most High gives, right? I'm talking about, you know, cohesion between our brothers and our sisters, but it seems like we tend to operate in chaos, and that might derive from selfishness, um, but to me, if anybody asks me this on the street, my first answer is gonna be, The scriptures, period. I think we claim as a people worldwide, the world, everybody claim to believe in the scriptures in the Bible. But we look out at the landscape of the world, I don't see no evidence of it.
Okay. I got another one for you. We claim to believe in family, but we believe in family that does the things that we want them to do. That becomes our family. Kind of goes back to the whole commitment thing as well. But yeah, we believe in the family who does the things that we want them to do. And if they don't do the thing that I want them to do, then they become distant family. They kind of struggle with the notion of family. It's kind of the same thing that they struggle with relationships as well. Family is just another part of that, right? So having an understanding of what relationship looks like becomes a thing. So again, you get to construct the narrative, you get to put other people into it, and then you get to puppet them around. And if you can do that, then they're your family, they're your friends, they're your peoples, they're your tribe. No, because when they start saying, "No, I don't want to live my life like that. I want to live my life being forced to serve you and appease to your emotions and things of that nature." Very dangerous thing to do. So thank you for that. Got another question, gentlemen. We talked about a couple of things. That said, what is that costing us collectively in terms of integrity, impact, and inner peace?
I think anytime you look at community or you look at any organization and you have people not pulling their weight or not having all the information or whatever the negativity may be, not pulling their weight, let's say that, I think that you're going to have an issue and it affects everybody. If we have five brothers here on the show every Friday night, and then there's homework to do A, B, and C, because whatever A, B, and C is required for the show to be effective. Where if the people don't go back, if one or two people are not doing what they're supposed to do, then it affects everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then people learn sometimes from other people's behaviors and stuff like this. I guess I'm not necessarily talking about that anymore. I'm more talking about just in generalities when it comes to people collectively, is that when it comes to integrity, impact, and inner peace and all these different things like that, when you are programmed to learn or to know or to be a certain type of way, then I think it affects all of this stuff. As you look at people who, maybe their parents, grew up in whatever type of way and they were exposed to robbing people. Their dad may have ran numbers and robbed people. So, maybe growing up with a certain level of integrity for them, even as an adult, they may not necessarily have that because of certain ways they were brought up or different things like that. So I think I may be getting a little bit off topic, so I'm gonna put a pin in there, and I'm probably gonna end up swinging back around to this once I hear a little bit more about what you brothers have to say on it.
Nah, man, I think I think you was in there. What is it costing us when we talk about integrity? First, I think with that one, I would say everything. I went back. I know what I know integrity to mean, but I went back to look at the definition just to read it, right? Because break down what are we losing. And the one definition that jumped out to me was a state of being whole and undivided. Well, the things that we hold on to structurally as a collective always seems to be divided. So was the integrity in that? And I know we think of integrity specifically as, oh, he's an honest man, but the integrity of the structure of us as a people is compromised. The church is divided, not just by denomination, but also by race and culture, right? Also by gender, because you got some churches that are divided because they believe women should be pastors and others believe that they shouldn't. And ain't nobody saying let's sit down and see what the scriptures say. All right. But then when we continue on and we talk about impact, it's having an impact, but the cost again is great. Like, because the type of impact that we're having is not. This is the reason why we look at every generation. The Gen X looked at us millennials. I love my Gen X. Gen X ain't never bothered me because my siblings are Gen X. I grew up with them, right? But the boomers looked at us, right, and they used to tell us, "Oh, this is a lost generation," blah blah blah. When they still considered us Gen X, that's what they told us. Gen X is a lost generation, and blah blah blah, and all of that stuff. Turned away from God, and then we looking at the younger millennials, and I gotta say younger because I'm still considering myself in between y'all two. But look at the millennials and saying the same thing, and then we're looking at Gen Z, and the millennials are saying the same thing about maybe because the impact that we're having off of the way that we're doing this thing is dragging us into the opposite direction in which we claiming to strive for, and that's hurting us. And then when you say inner peace, when you got division and you got chaos, and you're and the world is being impacted negatively, you don't have. It's crazy. It's a wonder to me how fast the mental health world grew just from the 90s to now, because mental health, for some reason, though that it's growing as far as an industry, but as a people, it seems like we are more and more in need of help as we go along, as time go along. And that one I can't even say generational, because I even know some old folks that's begging for help, that needing help. Life is hitting them. Stuff it's a rough world that we live in. I say it like that, and I'm gonna close that.
Yeah, life definitely be life. Garfield was about to say something because you leaned in. I thought you had that look in your face.
Man, I was gonna lean in a couple times, but I'm just. It's more of counter arguments than more so keeping the conversation progressing forward. So I'll just keep it rolling.
Okay, all right. I get it. I mean, and I'm glad you went and pulled down the definition of integrity, and that was the main reason why I started this conversation off talking about a house that has a cracked foundation. Because a house with a cracked foundation, now that kind of compromises the integrity of the structure of the house. So if your foundation isn't laid properly, then again, I don't care how nice the house is. It's something is going to happen. And like I said, that is the same thing as it pertains to human beings. So when you don't have a properly laid foundation, then everything is in chaos, like Gaddy said previously. So now, instead of being more proactive when it comes down to the life that you're leading, you're actually more reactive. You're responding to this fire. You're responding to this little small brush. You're responding to this spin up. You're responding to this. You're constantly in response mode. And that by itself puts you at a heightened sense of alert. That heightened sense of alert puts you in kind of like a more anxious mode. And I like the fact that you mentioned about the healthcare industry, because that's exactly how it works. So if I never allow you to lay the listen to what I just said. If I never allow you to lay a properly laid foundation, well, how can I not allow you from laying the proper foundation? By just simply putting out mixed messages, injecting a lot of messaging in the airways. At one point in time, it came via the news. It came via TV. It came via the TV show programs we used to watch. TV programs we used to watch. It was programming you through the tube. And then now it has moved, and it's really catching like wildfire. And so a lot of programming is happening through social media. So these things are standing in the way of a properly laid foundation if you allow it. And that in turn, regardless of whether you think you're doing the right thing, that in turn it even if you think you're doing the right thing, it challenges the integrity of the thing because you're doing it through the wrong lens. So even if the behavior ideally is right, even if the intent ideally is right, the behavior and manifestation of it is wrong. So now the impact, and I really hate to say this because it sounds bad. You have an entire, I mean, almost, it's not 100%, but you have a large proportion, the preponderance of a generation that, going back to what was said previously, that is just lost. They have no sense of ownership. They have no sense of selfless service. And I'm talking large scale. I'm not talking about the eaches, because I do believe a lot of that does happen, right? But it's all done from a self-centered perspective. It's all about what I can get and how it helps me and me, and me. And then there's no unity. There is no, well, I hate for this to rhyme. There's no unity, there's no community, and then ultimately there is no prolonging. So now what does that really mean? That means as the senior citizens get older, what ends up happening is that they're not confident of what's going to happen in their life because of what the younger generation is either doing and or saying. But they were, and I'm just being honest, they were part of that information that passed down, some of that teaching that came down. Then our generation continued it, whether we did not do the same thing that they did and we decided we wanted to go to polar opposite. Again, faulty foundation, faulty teaching. And that's how it works. And so on a large scale, I think it puts us at a handicap. What is your counter?
Man, nothing, man. I can't deny any of that. You know, I kind of like where both of y'all went with this question. Definitely added a little bit more to what I was saying. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That said, again, if you have not hit the like button yet, go ahead and hit that like button. And again, like you've seen, you might want to share this because we're getting after it. Go ahead, Garfield.
Yes. So, and I guess this goes down to when we looking at community and we're talking about collecting us collectively. And I just wonder, you know, because I look at, you know, how, you know, if we got five men on here, one not doing well, you know, there's people there to help and support and different things like that. But also, if there's one person that's doing extremely well, I do believe that sometimes that person have the ability to help, you know, be a role model, not just a role model, but be an example and kind of help bring other people up too. So I kind of see it in both ways, you know. But I do like, you know, I guess I just kept thinking about when we looking at collectively, you know, like who are we talking about? You know what I mean? Because I know like when we talking about culture or we're talking about us, you know, automatically some people maybe or maybe not want to say, okay, well, black people. And then for someone else, it may be like, well, maybe my church folk, my people at my church and my family. That's who I consider my circle, or that's who I consider my community. So I just always like, not always, but sometimes when we have these conversations and the word community come up and things like collectively, you know, I always wonder, you know what I mean, from what lens we're speaking about, and which one should be applied or which one we're applying when we're having some of our perspectives and stuff like that.
I don't think there's one that exempt, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. If a person think we're talking about, black people, then yes, we're talking about black people. If a person think we're talking Hispanic, yep, we're talking Hispanic. You think we're talking about your church group? Yep, we're talking your church group. I don't think there's one group that can honestly say that they're exempt. I think we're all on a large scale. And the only thing you got to do is pay attention. Look around,
Mhm.
right? Look around even in the people that you know. Look around. Look at what you see on TV. Look at what you see on social media. Just look around. on a large scale, there's something that is functionally wrong on a large scale. Like, I don't know what it was, and I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do it real quick. I don't know how it was when you guys were growing up, but when I was growing up, I thought this was the best country in the world. No other country on the planet like it. I thought we was the bee's knees. We was fire. We was like that. We was all that in a bag of chips. You know what I'm saying? The sugar honey iced tea. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Stop playing.
Mhm.
I thought that's what we were. And then as I got older and my aperture opened up, I realized that, man, we don't look no different than what was told, what was shown, not told, what was shown to us as a third world country. We don't really look no different than them. It's just the lens in which it's portrayed, and you are convinced that it is. And I'm talking again large scale. Now, in my opinion, do I really, if I'm really talking it out, do I really believe that we're in the greatest country in the world? I do. I really do want to believe that. But we got a lot of house cleaning work that we need to do. And it has to start with everybody cleaning their own house first. That's how it has to happen. So we can gloat and assume that, oh, well, in Georgia, we're doing so much better than Texas. But isn't that a faulty lens? As opposed to us just saying, if I believe that Georgia is doing better than Texas, why don't I come over to Texas and see how I can help? If Georgia and Texas is doing fine, why don't we come over? Oh, I'm sorry, you're on this side. I'm sorry, this side. Why don't I come over to North Carolina? Because my lens is yeah. Why don't I come over to North Carolina and see how we can help? But we don't do that. The only time we do that is when there is a natural disaster, hurricane, flood, whatever the case may be. At that point, we don't care what a person look like. We don't even care how much money they make. In fact, me trying to help you at that point, I ain't even looking for you to repay me back. I'm gonna get in my little canoe and I'm gonna roll my behind down there and try to get you off the roof of the house so I can get you to dry land.
And the funny part about it is, in the military, we meet people from everywhere. And everybody, even the ones who came to America for whatever reason they came here, think that they left the greatest country in the world. I don't know how that hits, but it just hit while you was talking. I was just thinking that, when you talk, is the lens and the perspective tells us that we're in the greatest country in the world because it's ours, it's where we live. And so why would we not want to do what we can do to make it a place that we want to live, that we want our children to live? The fact, I don't know if it was you that brought it up, Coach, or who I was listening to or whatever. But it brought it up saying the new generation, I think it was you, maybe on a Sunday, that this new generation, no, it was on Friday, his new generation do not want to have children. They do not want to further the generations because they don't want kids. They don't want to raise kids in the climate that we live in.
Exposure.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Absolutely. Again, thank you guys for being here. Greatly appreciate it. You guys are awful quiet today, man. I get it. So yeah, again, make sure you put your comments in the comment section and ask any questions that you may have. That said, most men are ruled by I don't feel like it. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about. If I'm good, and I see somebody else struggling, well, it ain't knocking on my door. It ain't affecting me. Most men are ruled by I don't feel like it, which becomes their default operating system. They make decisions based on what's easy, not what's right. This is why they quit when it gets hard and compromise their convictions for temporary comfort. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Gentlemen, what saith ye? Agree, disagree, see it from a different lens, have more you want to add to that?
I'm really trying to think of, is there an arena to where this doesn't apply? You know what I'm saying? Like in sports, it applies,
Mhm.
right? I listen. I love my Knicks. You know, I love my Knicks, right? Not just because we in the finals, but every time that we seem like we're against adversity, we find a way to pull ourselves to doing something good. And I think like when we talk about not where he stands in the moment of convenience, right? And I'm just using it because the game just happened and is in my head, right? But when Wimby was sitting there looking at, I'm in your head, and talking all this junk, it's cool because you on your way on a big run and you ended up by 29 points. It's
Mhm.
easy to talk junk, but
And still lost.
but got quiet as the game got close. I ain't hear nothing else from him when he only scored 15 more points the whole game, and from the first quarter to the end of the game, and didn't say nothing else. But like as you say, like that was a moment to write his legacy. When we came back and we put their backs against the wall, they were supposed to punch back and prove greatness, right? Like that was the measure of who is this guy. And I think no matter what avenue of life we talk about, those moments are what defines you. It's cool to lead when everybody's doing the right thing, but what does leadership look like when people start challenging you? What does leadership look like when when the people you lead in hits hard times and have hardships? When it gets uncomfortable. One of the things that was uncomfortable becoming a leader in the army was the idea that I was going to have to stand in front of somebody and call a command, right? But not that I didn't know how to do it, but to be in front of people, it gets uncomfortable. Can you get uncomfortable and then perform? I agree.
I don't want to take anything away from it. If anything, I would probably add a little bit more to it. The ultimate, I like the word ultimate, but then sometimes I don't. I don't know if the ultimate measure of a man is this, or if it's just could just take out the word ultimate and just say a measure of a man. But I like the ultimate measure for this conversation. But I think one of the things, and it may be implied here, but one thing that may be missing out of this for me is some sort of action behind it. It talks about but where he stands, and if I'm looking at where I'm standing at, that's just, when there's controversy, or when there's moments of comfort or convenience, and or versus when there's challenging controversy, what's my mindset, what's my thought process, where do I stand at ideology with whatever it may be. But at the same time, what's the action behind your stance? And maybe that's implied in this, but if it's not implied, then I would like to just add in some action behind. It's not enough to just stand for something. But what is your actions? Yes, we stand for wanting to help and support men. Our action behind it is Friday nights, this is where we're at. So I just would like to, if anything, I would just add some action again, only if it's not implied in this statement, and I'm just not seeing it.
Okay. All right. I can agree with that. I'm gonna keep pressing. 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions, Garfield, you'll like this one. Set New Year's resolutions fail to achieve them, primarily due to lack of discipline and emotional decision making. It's coming out of the University of Scranton research. On average, the average person makes 35,000 decisions per day. And decision fatigue leads to poor choices driven by comfort rather than conviction. Cornell University study. Men with clearly defined core values are 3 times more likely to report a high life satisfaction and career success. Let that set in for a second. Men with clearly defined core values, the foundation, are 3 times more likely to report high life success and career success. I think all of these things should be screaming something loud, especially if you're still raising kids, right? That foundation that is laid has to be it has to be laid in the right thing. It has to be the right foundation. It can't just be this fly by night thing that says do this, do that, gentle parenting this, gentle parenting that, whatever the case may be. Your gentle parenting, that's your business. Ain't got to do with that. Right. But again, it cannot be wishy washy because you're setting that child up for failure. And if it's a boy child, he's going to struggle as a man. Trust me when I tell you. So that said, I told you we was going to give you some rules, some practice on how to put it into practice. So we're skipping the next question. We're going to jump into embodying the 3 rules, how to use awareness to become the man you're meant to be. The law of consciousness states you cannot change what you're not aware of, and you cannot sustain what your consciousness level cannot support. The first one I think everybody knows. You cannot change what you're not aware of. I think that kind of goes without saying because that's the point of where you shut things down. Either you accept it or you don't accept it, right? Once someone makes you aware of it. But here is the piece where the foundation matters. You cannot sustain what your consciousness level cannot support. Why is that? Because you don't have the infrastructure. Without the infrastructure, you're putting on the facade. So it's a lot of adults that need to go back and rework the foundation in order for this to be a thing. Most men fail, not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack the level of consciousness required to embody that knowledge. I'll say it again. Most men fail, not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack the level of consciousness required to embody that knowledge. This is why I keep stressing information doesn't matter. You can get as much information as you want. Once you're done, you're going to do absolutely nothing with it. Simply because of that. Mastering these 3 rules require a consciousness shift from victim to creator, from external to internal mastery, from comfort to conviction. Now, gentlemen, I got a question that I want to throw at you guys real quick. In your opinion, what is the so what of all of that statement for men? If you could come up with a so what statement for, let's just say, 17, 18-year-old Tawami Gadd is out there listening. 17, 18-year-old Garfield Martin is out there listening. 17, 18-year-old Dwayne Dwyer is out there listening. What is the so what of all of this information you just heard?
I got one that's coming to me. Man. I probably didn't say it. I didn't already shut off counselor mode for the summer. If you would have asked me last week, 2 weeks ago, I probably would have had one right there. You know, because I talk to young men all the time, and I'm always like, so what, bro? Like, who cares? You know, he's like, I don't like my teacher. I'm just like, so what? He's like, hey, can you change my teacher? Man, my teacher we ain't vibing. Like, bro, so what? You need civics to graduate high school. So it's like, in my opinion, what is the so what? It's so many things. If I could come up with one, it would be, and it would probably go back to the feeling. I don't feel like doing whatever. So what? That's if I'm answering it the way I'm thinking you're asking, that's what mine would be. If I had a statement, to go along with it, it would be, anytime someone has a thought of a guy, young men, I don't feel like this. It will be so what? I don't know if I'm on it or not. If I'm not, let me know and I'll take another stab at it. I'm good. Yeah.
Let's let it play out.
Let Gaddy go and I'll come back.
Yeah, let it play out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I like where you went, but for me, so what is the statement? Because, like we said previously, life be lifing, right? Things happen, and we speaking as men, right? We brothers, right? We talking as men. what has ever happened in our lives as men that allowed us to abandon taking care of business? For me, I could say it's nothing. No matter what, everything that has happened I might have been able to take a pause to go take care of something else. I might have been able to, to take a breather, to catch my breath. But life stands right in our face. And as men, you still got to take care of what you got to take care of. Don't nobody want, like, and let me not even say as men, as adults, really, right? Because I don't like my job. I say, you know why? So what? So what? Find another one or continue to go. Because guess what? Them bills still got to get paid, whether you like that boss or not. Whether you like flipping burgers or not, you still got to pay that bill, right? All right. When I think about the concept just of everything that we're saying, like there's nothing that I can think of that exempts us from being adults first and being men. All right. It's good that we have brothers that we can call, but these things are in addition to life, because I know I got to get up in the morning in spite of everything going on. That's why I need to call Dwayne and vent. That's why I need to call Garfield and talk about some stuff and get some advice. It's because I know I got to get up and go back tomorrow. I don't get the luxury to say, you know what, I'm not going in. I got to. And so even in the context of everything that you said, the so what to me is the statement. It is the statement, and it's not to say don't have feelings and don't get over it. No, it's okay. When I look at so what, I think of, well, what you going to do about it? So then what? All right. Like Garfield said, I don't like my teacher. So then what you gonna do about it? Right? Because maybe the problem reason why you don't vibe with your teacher because you're trying to catch a vibe and not be a student. I'm just saying. I'm gonna shut up.
No, you're good. I don't disagree with that. I see it differently. Not that what you're saying is wrong, what you guys are saying is wrong, but only because I see it differently. I think the so what of that statement for men is that I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are in your life. You have a responsibility to look in the mirror. Look in the mirror and do an honest assessment of your life. Because this is what I know. The issue that I believe, and I kind of talked about it previously, is that if calamity isn't knocking at your door, you don't believe it's your problem. That's part of the problem. If Gaddy picked up the phone and made that phone call because he needs to vent, I need to be willing to provide space for that young man to vent and listen to the heart of that young man. Not say, "Hey, dog, hey, man, I know you got some stuff in your mind right now, bro. But I'm about to, I'm gonna have to holler at you a little later." What's the likelihood of him ever calling me back when he is in that space in that time of need? I'm gonna be honest with you. As much as we try, men are pretty prideful, right? It's just a thing. It kind of comes along with the territory. Even though we try to move out of the space of pride, if I ever need, I used to say this all the time. I'm not a needy person, but if I ever need you and you fail, you don't ever have to worry about me needing you again. I will rid you of that responsibility. I guarantee it. I still believe that to this day. I hate to say it that way. So now, because of that, I can't say because calamity is not knocking on my door, I need to create the capacity. It's just like the Bible says. The Bible says that we are supposed to gather resources so that we can help our brother in need, not so that I can go out here and buy this super large car and this super large house and flaunt and wear all these name brand stuff and pay $300, $400 on a pair of shoes, which is just downright ridiculous in my opinion. And that's why I say it that way, my opinion. I can't tell you what to do with your money. But yet, you'll see a person in your neighborhood, lights get cut off or whatever the case may be, and you won't even lift a finger to help. But you're wearing your Jordans, though. They look real good. Put them Jordans in that window and see if it light up for you. So I think every man, I don't care who you are, you have a responsibility to look in the mirror. What is, and I hate to say it this way, but I need to say it this way. How though I view my social responsibility as it pertains to this thing called life that I'm living. Because in most cases, I don't believe most of us believe we have a social responsibility. I think we believe we have a personal responsibility. I think we believe we have a family responsibility, but that's generally where it stops at. So every man needs to do an assessment. If I'm not in the position to pull my weight, then I really need to. And I'm not talking about take care of my own personal need. That's called responsibility. You the one that went out there and bought that car and that house and had them kids and all. I'm not taking that from you, but that's your responsibility. Go ahead, Gad, I'm sorry.
No, it's just because you said something, man. So do you think the lack of belief in the social responsibility is the reason why our family responsibility is so mismanaged? Like, we pay the bills, we turn on the lights, we feeding the kids, but the way that we're raising these kids and sending them out into the world, do you think that is a part of not realizing our social responsibility?
No. I think the reason why we don't realize our social responsibility because we don't believe with conviction in the one who created us for social responsibility. We perform at that level. We look like we do. We act like we do when people are looking at us. But deep down on a large scale, and again, this isn't everybody, but on a large scale, you don't really care.
Social responsibility is where I was wanted more on too. First of all, what does that look like? And because the reason why I asked what does that look like is because, I think it may look different. And I think people have their own interpretation of what that looks like. If you look at if you're looking for fighting for whatever cause, you have some people who foot the money bill. You have some people who will go out on the front lines and picket. You have other people who are educate people, and you have different people have different responsibilities. So, one question is, what does that look like when it comes to the support? And then it was more of a comment on the more something else. It kind of slipped my mind, but it's just like, yes, I get the social responsibility, but who's supposed to teach us and where do we learn the social responsibility? And I get it because sometimes we are taught your social responsibility to help out in the community, right? And then we get to a certain level, or certain people get a certain amount of money, and then we've been burned over and over and over and over by the so-called community. I don't have a voice in the community. People don't listen to me in the community, but yet you still want me to give I still have some sort of social responsibility to the community. So again, that's why I'm asking, like, what does that social responsibility to the community kind of look like? Because in one sense, someone may say, well, as long as if I'm taking care of me and mine's in this circle, then that's going to contribute to the overall success of the community because now they don't have to worry about what's going on in this circle. Unc got his circle, Coach got his circle, Timothy got his circle. If we got 5 people in the community, 3 of us are good. So you see what I'm saying? So again, what part of the responsibility in the community is ours?
I think you partially answered it.
That is the
Oh,
answer.
yeah.
No. You got to
Okay.
hear, because everything you said was external. I'm in this community, but I don't have a voice in the community. Well, have something of value to say, and maybe the community will hear your voice.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's always a different. Every time I look outwardly and say, "Well, these people here and that person there," no, it's never that. It's always here. If I feel like I don't have a voice in the community, maybe the problem is I don't have anything of value to say when I speak in the community. Therefore, they're not listening. So I need to go and look in the mirror and check the value that I'm adding to the community. Therefore, when I speak, I have something of value to say. See, as long as me and mine's is good, that's called responsibility,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? That's all this is. No one is going to give me a pat on the back and hoist me on their shoulder and carry me down the street because I take care of my responsibility. That's what you suppose. That is the lowest level of manhood, in my opinion. You don't get special, recognition for that. Nobody's going to throw a parade for you for taking care of your responsibility. So why do I
my
end
own
it?
bills?
Right. Why do I end it at the ends of my wall and then walk around like stud chicken? You know what I'm saying? That math ain't mathing. And that's kind of like the level of, pardon my French, for those of you who believe this, but that's part of the level of ignorance that I'm talking about. If that is how I see social responsibility, then I do not understand the word social, let alone responsibility, because the primary reason for these walls is so I can have a controlled environment so I can teach. I say that part again. The primary reason for these walls is for me to have a controlled environment to teach. When they leave the walls, they should be teaching from the source of their teacher. So I better be teaching the right thing, or I will get exposed when they get out there and start opening their mouth in the community. Brother Johnson called me, AD. I need to holler at you real quick. Hey man, you check what that young man talking about. That young man out here talking about twerking and all that other good stuff. What you teaching up in the house? All right, you're right. You're right, Brother Johnson. I was looking like what's that old TV show that used to come on BET in the midnight? Rap. It was.
I'm about to say, we're not uncut. I hope you ain't talking about
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
uncut.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Tip
We up
drill.
in here watching Uncut. For what? What you teaching them? The reason why this is so important, mastering the inner world before attempting to conquer the outer world, because once this is fixed, when I go out, I serve. And I don't serve because I'm looking for their response. I'm serving because it's the right thing to do. And I'll go as another step. It's actually in the codex. It's in your DNA for you to want to serve when you master your inner world. Something happens to you to where just the service alone is enough. You ain't looking for the pat on the back. You ain't looking to be hoisting on anybody's shoulder. You're looking for any of those things. It's just the service alone that is pleasing enough.
I'm liking it.
Yeah, you good, bro?
I'm good. You said a lot. You said a lot. But the one thing that kept coming to my mind, but it kept coming to my mind when Uncle was talking. I'm a firm believer, and I used to say this. So when I used to teach a choir, right? I used to ask them, how many of you believe that you were called to minister in music? Right? Because not everybody in the choir believes that they're called. If you're called to minister in music, what are you doing to master your craft of music?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think one of the things that bothers me about me sometimes when it comes to music is that I've learned so many different things that I never took the time to master anyone specifically. You know what I'm saying? Like I could play the piano, I could sing, I could play the drums, I could play the bass guitar that's sitting over there. But if you called me and asked me to do a walk on, could I walk on? I'm gonna go and look and see what genre of band wants me to walk on and play, because I can't play everything because I haven't mastered the craft. Because which one was I called to do, right? And that thing, I ask TJ all the time when he's in that 10,000 different thing. I say, son, which one of those things are you obsessed about? Because that's the thing you need to really give energy. I'm not telling you not to be well-rounded, but there has to be, you have to be able to look at, like Paul said. Now, Paul wasn't talking about this, but you have to be able to look like Paul and say, this is one thing that I do. And so when you act like, what is my impact? If my impact may be vibrating low because I haven't put anything into that thing. I haven't worked on being a better singer. I haven't worked on being a better pianist. I haven't worked on being a better drummer. Like, I'm just doing it because I'm good at it and I like it. But what have I done? Because if it's my responsibility to give this socially back, then why am I not making it the best quality that I can to give it back?
Bingo. I love it. Real quick, let's bring up Maya's statement, because I like what she's saying here. She said, looking at the external in terms of success, I know a host of individuals that are certification heavy and successful in their careers, but what is being poured into their family and their children's? Spot on. But they look good on paper, make a lot of money, bring it in the house. You know, back during my Be All You Can Be days, I was out the door at 5 and coming home at 7:30 at night. I'm just saying.
Oh, you was one of the good ones.
At least I thought.
At least that's what they told us.
That's what they
You
told
ain't
us.
putting in long hours. You ain't one of the good ones. You ain't getting promoted.
That's what they say.
Mhm.
Hey, listen, we greatly appreciate you guys. Greatly appreciate all the comments in the comment section. Definitely appreciate you brothers on the panel, and all the value that you added. We're going to do final thoughts real quick. Again, we greatly appreciate what you do in support. If you have not, I think it's here, wherever it is, do this. If you have not registered for the webinar on July the 11th, by all means do so. Again, I think it's going to be a great webinar, and you should expect to receive something during that webinar. Not just a great teaching, but I got something for you guys as well. And for those of you who support the community in the sponsorship program, I greatly appreciate that. Speaking of, as I said, sponsorship program, that's the community support program. Sponsorship program, just so you know, have been officially launched. So what does that mean? That means that the Empowering Perspective YouTube channel is looking for sponsors. So if you know business owners, small business owners, whatever the case may be, who would love to sponsor Empowering Perspective, by all means do so. Share this information with them. If you don't mind, would you show the sponsorship QR code, please? Scan this sponsorship QR code and share this with those business owners. That way, you will have something to present to them and you're not trying to explain it yourself. So again, if you know of anyone who owns a business, small business, large business, doesn't really matter. No bootleggers though. We don't want no bootleggers. We can't promote those businesses, right? Again, what does that really mean? That means that a segment of the show will belong to that sponsor during that particular show, right? And I have to create a calendar and make sure that I, section off, depending upon what level of sponsorship they choose to join at. They get more of a recognition. Some of them will get their actual business logo on the thumbnail of the shows. So it is to that extensive. So again, share this scan the QR code, share it to those people who have businesses. That way they'll know about the sponsorship program. And again, listen, we welcome all sponsors and we appreciate the sponsors that we already have so far. Real quick, final thoughts. We're going to go Unc, then Gaddy, then myself, and then we'll close it out. Thank you guys for being here so far, but bittersweet moment. Final thoughts.
First of all, I would like to say thank everybody for being here the last couple of weeks. This was kind of a continuation of the show we had last week. So if you did not have the pleasure of watching last week's, please go back and watch last week's show. So with that being said, I'm going to say my final thought is I'm going to use everything we talked about last week and this week and kind of combine it, and then just kind of speak on the more so the title. There we go. The title of the show. I'm looking at it right now. I just can't get my words out. So the power of application turning rules into results. So all of the stuff that we got over the last couple of weeks, all of the conversations, all of the questions, all of the monologues, the talking points, the side conversations, the chats, all of those things, everything, a lot of things, nothing is going to start without application. There has to be a thought process there. There has to be a plan, all of these other things, but there has to be application. When we want to turn rules into results, there has to be a certain level, there have to be application behind it. If the rules are, A, B, and C, well, if you don't apply those rules, then that you won't get the results that you are looking for in life. If we look at certain things, in order to become the doctor or to get your master's, there are rules that you need to apply. You have to come to school, you have to show up, you have to get these marks, you have to complete these assignments. And when and if you go through that journey, you will be rewarded with the results of walking across the stage, turning your tassel from one side to the other, all of those different things like that. And those apply to all things in life, um, all things in life, in our personal life, on our jobs, in our relationships, in our all of these different things. So I believe that, again, kind of going back to the title for tonight, the turning the rules into the results, that all of those things are great. It's good to have rules, but the application and applying those rules and everything that you have in order to get your desired results are key. Application is very key. And that's my final thought.
I love this conversation. I'm looking for a scripture that came to my mind, and it's James. I thought Uncle was gonna be a little bit longer. I apologize, but it's James 1, I believe, when he tells us to be doers and not hearers only. All right, because in that we deceive ourselves. I love the title, and even going back and looking at last week, like Unc said, and we look at the 3 rules that we go through. The conscious crisis, the full ownership of your life, mastering your inner world before you conquer the outer world. Right, live by conviction, not by comfort. And when I bring this all together and I look at today's topic, the power of application, it leads me right there. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. I think it's gotten so bad that the lack of desire to make the word applicable in our everyday walk has allowed us to believe that we don't have to apply any level of core values in our lives, in any aspect of our lives, any longer. We live in a space, in a time where man just believes I can do what I want and everyone has to accept it because I decided to do it. Not understanding that our actions, our words, our behavior, even raising our children affects the people that are next to us, the people that are around us, and 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 everyone that we come in contact with on our daily journey, right? We're affecting people because our attitudes are bad. We're affecting people because we drive crazy. We're affecting people because we in anything, right? I was about to talk about say because I even hygiene, right? That affects everybody, right? And it affects you, it affects your health, but it affects everybody that you're around. Why? Because we make the conscious decision to be selfish in our endeavors. It's a conscious decision. I don't think we just wake up like that, but this is why we get into this space to where success don't seem imminent. It's because we want everything our way. We want to do things the way we see it. But here's the thing: there are blueprints out there. I think the thing Coach brought up when it says that men who has clear set goals tend to report higher appreciation and satisfaction in life and career success. I think the reason for that, right, is because those clearly defined core values. Thank you, core values. Those clearly defined core values gives us a blueprint of how we're going to walk, of how we're going to move, of how even whatever space you put yourself in, these core values tell us how we are going to engage in life every day. And without that set before us, I think that we go back to that foundation being rocky, because we are just we like to put on titles, we like to put on names, we like to name drop, we like to say I do this, this is but we don't like to become, and I use the word become, professional at the thing. And that's what the core values give us. That's what that baseline gives us. It gives us the ability to become professionals at it. I want to be a professional at pleasing the Most High. So that's why I chose the scripture to lead me. That's it's James 1. I get the verse later. I'll probably put it in the chat. But let's be doers and hearers. Let's hear, right? Because we gotta. It comes. Faith comes by hearing by the word of God. But we have to be doers as well. That's what I got.
Yeah, that scripture's James 1:22. I, for one, am passionate about this conversation. In fact, I think I want to do a teaching on this conversation, simply because of how important this conversation is. Not only do I want to do a teaching on it, I want to do like a deep dive, a webinar type style. I think it's important for us to recognize this. I think it's important for us to understand this. The Creator, He created beings that were supposed to create. Instead of us focusing on creating through the lens of the Creator, we're more focused on recreation. So at any given opportunity we get, we look for recreation, and we don't necessarily realize that we are wrecking creation. That's the issue that I'm seeing. We're so self-focused that we are wrecking creation. We are not doing what He called us to do. Men are not being men. Not talking about a person who takes care of responsibility. That's not a definition of a man. A person who is responsible, that is the definition of maturity. That's the definition of growing up. But how do you grow outside of that? Like, what do you like? Can somebody say when somebody talks about you? My thought is like, what are their thoughts when they think about you? What are they saying about you? That this person, man, no matter, whenever I call Garfield, he's always there, man. He answer the phone and so forth. And I got it. Somebody's like, well, always ain't good. Yeah, I got it. Boundaries are a thing. But if you're talking about your brother in need, right? Kind of like what Gaddy was saying, can they legitimately say that I can call on that cat right there and he gonna always be there, because that's the type of man he is? See, most of us, again, are so focused on what's going on inside the house that we can't even see what's going on the outside. And what does that really say? But we want to know, where's the community at? When we were younger, it took a community to raise. Where's the village at? The village is in the house because they don't want to come outside. It's hot. That's the concern that I see. So again, like I said, I want to do a deep dive on this. I want us to really unpack this, and I invite any other fellows that want to come and help me with it. I think this is an important conversation to have. And if 10 men show up, Yeah. So I'm putting it out there right now. Spread it far, deep, and wide. Tell your nephews, your cousins, your daddies, your granddaddies. I don't care how old they are. If 10 men show up, I think we can build something powerful. So that's my final thought. And again, I just think it's just something that we need to pay close attention to. All right. Listen, greatly appreciate you. Man, listen. What's up, AT? Good to see you, man. I ain't seen that brother in a minute. Shout out Adrian Thomas, man. Welcome. That brother used to be here all the time. I know he got busy, but brother, you know you're always welcome to come back. Listen, for you guys out there, we greatly appreciate you. Greatly appreciate your time. Thank you for giving us a few extra minutes tonight, but this is an important conversation. That said, listen, man, just listen. Let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. And again, reach out and touch a brother. I don't care if you're a woman. If you're a woman and you know a man who is floundering, reach out and touch him. Say, hey, man, I got something I want you to pay attention to. Come on over here and check these brothers out because they're really serious when it comes down to men in this country. Listen, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, man. Let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. And we'll see you again next week on the Hearts of Men podcast.